Hello, folks. Great to be with you. Thank you for those of you who are joining us. You are here. This is the Defiance.org weekly spotlight. This is our second weekly spotlight. My name is Miles Taylor. I'm one of the founders of Defiance.org. I'm thrilled for you to be here. There's a lot to cover today, but I want to say at the very top end, this is a very, very important evening to be having this conversation because a news story dropped this week that's extremely relevant to everything that we're going to be talking about tonight. And if you didn't see this news story, let me recap it for you. This week, according to Reuters, the Trump administration is finalizing a rule that would rescind long-standing protections for whistleblowers in the senior ranks of the federal government. What does this actually mean? What this means is that the White House is planning to make it easier to retaliate against, to fire, to potentially prosecute people for telling the truth. And more specifically, people inside the executive branch that would expose misconduct, abuses of power, misspending of federal funds, or even violations of the law that the president himself undertakes. They want to make it easier to punish people for telling the truth. That's something we should all be worried about. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican or an independent, the survival and success of our democracy depends on our ability to know what our government is doing. And it also depends on people preventing the federal government from engaging in illegal activity. That's why this week we chose for our weekly spotlight to talk about blowing the whistle on Trump, to talk about the threats to whistleblowers inside the federal government, to talk about the importance of whistleblowers to protecting our democracy, but very specifically, to talk about what we all can do about this. If you're joining us for the first time, let me tell you for a second about what Defiance.org is. The genesis of this organization, I hate to say it was born out of frustration. It was born out of frustration of getting the question again and again and again, what can I do? Now, I started getting that question a lot this year after I myself was targeted by the administration in a revenge executive order issued by the president in April. Now, I was lucky to have a lot of people come to my defense, but the question that I kept getting was, what can I do? People wanted to know, amidst all of the abuses of powers we are seeing out of this administration, how could they contribute? A lot of us have shown up at protests. A lot of us have donated to great organizations, but it's not moving fast enough. There are so many extraordinary groups around the country doing so much work on a daily basis to respond to the threats that we are seeing emanate from the White House, that we need to be able to get a wider group of people together to support them. So we launched Defiance.org to answer that question. What can I do? This is what we call a club for courageous Americans. People who want to contribute to those extraordinary organizations and also, when they're able to, personally actually take action. That's what we do. And these weekly spotlights every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern highlight a new mission that we and our members are taking on every week. And the mission, like I said, this week is protecting whistleblowers. Now, before we jump into the program, let me say one thing. For those of you who didn't join us last week, we had a fantastic group of folks. Defiance.org decided last week to support the mission of holding Donald Trump's corporate enablers accountable. You've seen a lot of these companies in the news capitulate to the White House, to the lawlessness, when they should show courage instead of capitulation. And so we supported last week two groups that are doing activations around Black Friday and the spending blitz Americans engage in around Thanksgiving to make sure people are spending their dollars wisely and spending their dollars in a way that holds those companies accountable and urges them to choose courage instead of cowardice. So to find out more about that effort, you can visit the members page at defianceorg.substack.com. Additional details there. And if you want to become a member of the organization, you can see there on your screen the things that we do with our members. We are a new organization. We are trying to move very fast to take action, but you are the beating heart of this club. And importantly, your membership fees to this club go to the fight. They go to the organizations that we're supporting, and they go to mobilizing Americans to take action. So really excited for people to join defiance.org this week. If you haven't yet, please do go to defiance.org/join the club, or send it if you've already joined to other folks to help us expand and grow this organization. But let's dive into it today, because we have an incredible group of guests that are joining us to talk about the threats to whistleblowers, to talk about the importance of truth tellers in government. And I want to bring some of those people into the conversation. First, let me introduce Stacey Young. She's a longtime veteran of the U.S. Department of Justice, left not too long ago and launched an organization that we'll talk a little bit about in the conversation called Justice Connection. Stacey, thrilled to have you here in the conversation. Welcome. We'll also bring into the conversation here a man named Mark Zaid. And I'm sure you've seen Mark out there. He's probably the top whistleblower attorney in America. And full disclosure, Mark has represented me before because I, of course, have gotten into trouble with this administration and butting heads with Donald Trump. And there's no one better to go to in the country than Mark Zaid. Mark, great to have you here.
Thanks, Miles.
Then we'll add into the conversation the incredible Glenn Kirshner. You know Glenn from his program Justice Matters on Substack and YouTube and other platforms. You also know him as a TV analyst. You also know him as a killer lawyer and a righteous defender of truth tellers. Glenn Kirshner, welcome.
Thank you, Miles. Great to be here.
And finally, we welcome someone who is also a whistleblower in her own right, in addition to being a media tycoon. Allison Gill runs the Daily Beans, another truth-telling outlet, but has her own experience blowing the whistle and fighting back in a time of turmoil. So everyone, thank you. Appreciate you coming into the conversation. Glenn, I actually want to start with you here because I know you've been covering these conversations the past few days. You've been covering the stories coming out of the administration, the revenge campaign this week, but the retaliation against whistleblowers here, the story from Reuters, I think is truly extraordinary. I want to get your reaction to it. What's the significance here, and how should we be thinking about the administration's efforts to silence dissent?
You know, Miles, if we really cared about good government, wouldn't we want to expose what's going on inside the executive branch, for example, if there is fraud, waste, abuse, corruption, or crime? We should welcome with open arms honest whistleblowers who see something, so they say something. But we know in the Trump administration, both the first and second, corruption is Donald Trump's game. He's all about the grift. The last thing he wants is for either he or any of his cabinet members to be caught enriching themselves, violating the rights of federal workers. You know, I remember during the first Trump term when Michael Atkinson, who was the inspector general for the intelligence community, Michael and I worked together for 10 years at the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C. before he went over to Maine Justice. You know, he had the nerve to expose the whistleblower complaint filed by Alexander Vindman. And of course, both Colonel Vindman and Michael were, you know, fired for having the nerve to bring to the American people's attention the corruption, the abject corruption of a president who would leverage congressionally approved funds that were supposed to go to Ukraine to help them defend against unlawful Russian aggression, leverage it for a dirty sham investigation being announced into his, Donald Trump's, political opponent. You know, if we don't have watchdogs on the inside of the federal government, particularly this executive branch, then we can expect fraud, waste, abuse, crime, and corruption to be the norm, which it certainly seems to be in the Trump administration.
I'm going to play a clip for y'all. And Mark Zaid, I want to get your reaction to it first on the back end. And before I play this clip, let me just say, there have been so many examples already in just 10 months of this administration of retaliation against whistleblowers, and truth tellers. The list is enormous, and it's not just people from this current administration, people from the previous administration, people from the Biden and Obama administrations. But there was a particularly jarring episode a few weeks ago, which is FEMA employees decided to sound the alarm about how the cuts within the agency, the politicizing of emergency aid to Americans, particularly in blue states, was putting the country in danger. Have a listen.
So just days before the nation marks the landfall of Hurricane Katrina on the Gulf Coast 2 decades ago, more than 100 current and former FEMA employees are sending an urgent warning, saying the Trump administration is gutting the capabilities and the authority of the agency. CNN's Gabe Cohen joins us now with this story. Gabe, tell us more about what's being described as the Katrina doctrine.
You talk about this letter. This is about 180 current and former FEMA workers who essentially say that this overhaul of FEMA that we have seen at the hands of the Trump administration in recent months really is reversing, is rolling back a lot of the changes and what they see as progress over the past couple decades. They point to a couple things specifically. We talk about FEMA's autonomy. Well, we know Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, whose department oversees FEMA, she's implemented at least one policy that essentially says any payments, any grants, contracts over $100,000, they now need her approval. We saw it hamper FEMA's response during the Texas floods. There was a lot of concern that that is violating the changes that were put in place after Katrina, that FEMA is supposed to have autonomy, and yet we're seeing the DHS secretary say, no, you go through me if you want to spend a serious amount of money, even during a disaster.
So Mark, in the wake of this report, these people inside this top emergency response agency say the country is at greater risk of another Hurricane Katrina, a devastating episode. What happened? Those people were put on leave or fired for speaking out about the threat to the country. That was, to me, a very prominent episode of retaliation. And in fact, upon my most recent check, most of those people are still either on indefinite leave in the administration or pushed out altogether. Tell me a little bit about your reaction to this, and how does the news this week make episodes like that more likely?
One of the biggest problems was a lot of these people had signed a letter that had then been published, and the agency went and identified who was still within the agency to take action against. We are in a very different climate, including separate and distinct from the first Trump administration. I mean, the whistleblower who Glenn was talking about, I was one of the lawyers for that individual. And I dare say that the way we handled that case in working with Michael Atkinson at the ICIG would not function the same way if it happened today. In fact, we protected the identity of the whistleblower, and I doubt that would happen successfully now, because Carolyn Levitt, the press secretary, would just blurt out the name for anyone who was daring to blow the whistle on this administration. So before Donald Trump, quite frankly, we could all debate about the strengths and the weaknesses of the whistleblower laws. But I used to have faith that the system would at least work. I might not like the end result. Maybe we wouldn't get the objective we wanted, but the system would work. Individuals would protect the process. That doesn't exist now. Now I don't trust the system, because anyone who speaks out will be retaliated against. So we're taking a lot of steps through my law practice, through Whistleblower Aid, which you'll hear more about, folks, of taking the step of anonymizing individuals even more so. You, Miles, of course, would know very well about being anonymous, of where the need to be, at least up until you reach the point, and it will differ for everyone, where is your line legally? Where is your line ethically? And those could be different lines. Before those are crossed, before you might want to come forward in a more aggressive manner if needed. But we're doing a lot of work to try and protect the identities of whistleblowers, but still get the information out so they could raise questions like everyone just saw in those news broadcasts.
Well, Allison, you know a lot about this because you've been there. You've been in that hot seat. You've had to make that decision before. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience with that, but also in answer to Mark's question, what kind of decision making goes into that decision, that tough decision to go public, and what have you seen so far in this administration that's going to complicate that for people who want to come out and tell the truth?
Sure. Well, in the first Trump term, as you may know, I was working at the Department of Veterans Affairs for over a decade. And I didn't think anything of starting a podcast about the Mueller investigation in my spare time called Mueller, She Wrote. But in August of 2019, my podcast was investigated by the Department of Veterans Affairs. And in October of 2019, there was a VA Inspector General report on the VA Office of Accountability and Whistleblower Protection that was released. And what they found was, quote, "This report from the VA's Office of the Inspector General confirms that the AFGE and our VA members, what they've been saying all along, instead of using the personal authorities Congress provided the agency to root out bad managers and improve service delivery to veterans, the VA has systematically misused its authority to fire low-level staffers and retaliate against whistleblowers and hurt the very veterans that the agency was created to help." Now, 5 months later, I was relieved of duty after serving 11 years at the Department of Veterans Affairs. I filed a claim with the Merit Systems Protection Board, and my lawyer was Kathy Harris, who is now suing the government herself for being kicked off and unlawfully removed from the Merit Systems Protection Board. But my case languished for years because of the damage that Trump did to the Merit Systems Protection Board during his first term. And now when we're looking at the second term, it's going to be 10 times worse. Now, I can't talk too much about my case. In 2023, they did deny my claim. I had a 90-day window to file a lawsuit. It goes to trial in 2026. I was removed in 2020. That's how long these things take from the slowdown from the first Trump administration. But now he doesn't have anybody there's no adults in the room. There's no guardrails. And so far, this is wide-ranging. As Mark was saying, he's gutted the Freedom of Information Act offices. He's gutted the Public Corruption Unit at the Department of Justice, fired all but 2 of the inspectors general. We just recently learned that the FHFA Ethics Commission was completely fired because they were looking into how Bill Pulte got his hands on mortgage documents that should be private information for folks like other watchdogs like Lisa Cook and Letitia James, New York Attorney General. We learned just this week through whistleblowers, Epstein survivors, that the Department of Justice under Biden actually had a sprawling investigation into the Epstein and Maxwell co-conspirators open. And Trump came in January, killed that investigation, stole the files, and fired the prosecutors. We know that the White House helped Andrew Tate when he landed in Fort Lauderdale. His phones were seized as part of an ongoing investigation. And Paul Ingrassia called the White House and got them to return his devices to him. We saw Ghislaine Maxwell, 2 people or multiple people, I think, at the Bureau of Prisons were fired for handing over non-privileged emails on the Bureau of Prisons system to show that Ghislaine Maxwell was thinking about filing for a commutation. So not only are the guardrails completely off, but the systems that are usually in place to protect us, like the Merit Systems Protection Board, National Labor Relations Board, Inspectors General, et cetera, on, have been completely gutted, or the people there have been replaced with folks that are willing to do Trump's bidding. And so it seems like now whistleblower offices and accountability offices within this federal government are traps to find out who the whistleblowers are so that they can retaliate against them. That's what I see happening in this administration versus the last.
Well, Stacey, I want to ask you about this because you have spoken to, worked with, helped countless whistleblowers, especially people coming from the Department of Justice. And if folks didn't read the New York Times piece about lawyers who have blown the whistle from the inside and once they've left the Department of Justice, I urge them to. It's a remarkable article and probably the deepest dive we have seen any outlet take so far this year into what has happened to the U.S. Department of Justice in the 10 months of this administration. Tell us how we should think about what has happened in terms of whistleblowers, whistleblower protections, and retaliations in that department in just this past year.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that article. It's an extraordinary piece and is based on conversations with 60 Department of Justice employees, both current and former. We have worked with all of those employees. We connected those employees with the New York Times, and they showed extraordinary courage in talking about what they saw in the department and what some of them are continuing to see in the department. People with that kind of courage are more necessary than they've ever been, given the obscene lawlessness we're seeing at DOJ and across the federal government. And, back to the proposed regulation you mentioned earlier that Reuters broke yesterday. This is a regulation that will, if implemented, further chill whistleblowers from coming forward. And it's really an example of this administration telling on itself, I think. I mean, one of the justifications, the main justification for its attacks on the federal government and the apolitical career civil service is that it's filled with waste and corruption and misconduct. But what they're doing is prohibiting employees from exposing waste and fraud and misconduct and abuse. And not only, as Allison was discussing, the longstanding avenues for blowing the whistle have been largely foreclosed to employees at DOJ and elsewhere. Normally, if you had a whistleblower complaint, you would take it to the Office of Special Counsel, which is an independent agency. But this president fired the head of it and replaced him with a self-proclaimed Nazi who had to withdraw himself from contention when his Nazism was exposed. Incidentally, he was just nominated to fill another role in the federal government, which is stunning. 17 inspectors general have been fired. The one at DOJ left. And, internal whistleblowing offices in DOJ have been largely dismantled. And going to Congress, which has always been an avenue for whistleblowers, feels like an unsafe option for a lot of people now. Senator Grassley, who has been largely, for years, was heralded as a champion of government whistleblowers, has all of a sudden decided to castigate whistleblowers like Erez Ravani and other incredibly credible whistleblowers coming from the Department of Justice and elsewhere. So if whistleblowers with extremely important information want to get it out now, it's very difficult to do in the legally prescribed ways. And, there's a question about what they should do about that. Leaking to reporters off the record may not afford you whistleblower protections like disclosing information in other ways can. So, responsible, law-abiding federal employees have really been silenced in an unprecedented way, and it's having devastating effects to the American public learning about what's really happening in government right now.
But Glenn Kirshner, tell me this: can we wait for people to get the protection they need? Because we're in a live fire exercise here. I mean, and I mean that literally. You've got an administration that's in the Caribbean killing people in boats that a number of members of the military think is illegal. You have an administration engaged in a real-time cover-up of major investigations inside the Justice Department. I mean, these things are happening constantly, and for whistleblowers to have another barrier thrown in front of them makes it really hard to find out about this. And one of the things I want to ask you about, Glenn, is there was another extraordinary moment this week, which is that we had 6 Democratic senators and congressmen who have served in uniform or served in the intelligence community released this video. Alyssa Slotkin was one of them, senator from Michigan, telling members of the military and intelligence community, addressing them publicly and saying, you can refuse illegal orders and you must refuse illegal orders. I don't think anything like that has ever happened in modern American history, that elected leaders felt it necessary to broadcast out and remind people they don't have to break the law if the president wants them to.
The military is in this sort of cold war with itself right now because we don't know exactly what's going on. We have seen some reports recently where some active duty military members have stood up and said, we will not obey unlawful orders to, for example, deploy to the streets of Chicago if we are given those orders. Of course, they've already been retaliated against. Shocking, I know. But, I do believe, I was active duty Army 6.5 years as an Army JAG. So I was taught both in Officer Basic and again at the Army's JAG school that just as we must obey lawful orders, we absolutely must disobey patently unlawful orders. And there are some important organizations out there, and defiance.org may already be familiar with some of them. The National Institute of Military Justice has something called the Orders Project. And what the Orders Project does is they take calls in real time from members of the military saying, I think I may be given an unlawful order. What do I do? What are my protections? How do I navigate this impossibly difficult terrain? Because, if you get it wrong and you disobey an order and it was a lawful order, guess what? You're looking at a court martial. And so I do think there are people inside the military who are pushing back. We're just not seeing much of that being exposed publicly. But listen, we all need to be on the offensive when it comes to, our loyalty to the rule of law and to the Constitution. Before the last election, I was working on something called the 22 Words Project. And I'd met with a number of members of Congress because I actually was advocating for amending the federal oath of office, which is found at 5 United States Code 3331. We've all taken it at one time or another. We, support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I said, let's just drop 22 words into the middle of the oath of office. And here they are. And I will promptly report any and all instances of crime and or corruption by government officials and employees of which I become aware. Guess what? We are all now whistleblowers if we take the oath of office. Now, Miles, I don't pretend everybody will abide by that oath that they take. But if everybody in government knows that everybody in the next cubicle or the next office or around the next corner might take that oath of office seriously, if they are obliged by their oath to disclose crime and corruption by other employees and officials, I think that can only help to reduce crime and corruption, fraud, waste, and abuse inside government. Of course, that effort got completely derailed once Trump got reelected, but we have to go on the offensive and continue to make things better, not just try to keep things from getting worse.
Well, Glenn, that would surely, if it had existed, made Mark Zaid's caseload explode. I want to do a quick lightning round here. I wish I could be with this panel for 2 hours. There's so much we could talk to each of you about, but quick lightning round, and starting with you, Mark, and then let's go to Allison and end with Stacey. If these protections are rescinded, if this administration continues to retaliate against whistleblowers, I want to know, what part of the government are you most worried is going to be shrouded in secrecy? And what are the consequences for ordinary Americans to be deprived of that information, of how their government is operating and whether it's operating legally? So I hate to put you on the spot first, Mark, but is there a specific place that you worry that this retaliation, that these actions against truth tellers are going to harm the American Republic?
It's a tough issue, obviously, to look at, because what people don't understand, I'm sure, because this isn't normal, is what this effort is trying to do is replace where career officials would have been through multiple administrations, Democrat and Republican, to be sycophants for the Trump administration. So where am I most concerned? Look, I have spent 30 plus years dealing with the intelligence community. They're normally shrouded in secrecy. But I think if I had to say where I'm most concerned, it would be Stacey's old haunt, the Department of Justice, because we could always count on at least the department to be independent as an entity and not abide by the tweets of the president to go target political enemies. And if the Justice Department and the rule of law falls, then everything else surrounding it just goes with it.
Allison?
Hey, sorry, I was muted. That's such a tough question. I've spent over a decade in the Department of Veterans Affairs. I immediately want to talk about the Veterans Affairs, but I'm actually going to go with what Mark Zaid mentioned, and I'm going to say the intelligence community. Like you said, Mark, it's normally shrouded in secrecy, and for good reason. There are so many lives at stake. And when corruption comes, for example, this new, I can't remember who it was that appointed himself Office of General Counsel for the CIA to write a memo saying that they can do covert ops in Venezuela without, having to get congressional approval. But those kinds of things, without the proper whistleblowing avenues in the intelligence community, I think that the world of people's lives that are put at risk is so much bigger than we can possibly know. And I think that's what concerns me the most.
Stacey, what gives you heartburn?
I mean, obviously, I have to say DOJ. I would fire myself if I didn't. There's only one federal agency that has investigated and prosecuted President Trump. And from day one, he's been laser focused on the department. It is the agency that he has tried most to politicize and weaponize. And there need to be career officials inside the department who feel comfortable blowing the whistle, getting the information out. And this is a very calculated campaign to choke off the avenues that have always existed for DOJ employees and others to blow the whistle. Further foreclosing important chains, especially among the category of people who will be covered by this regulation. And that is high-level individuals, people who are very involved in policy decisions, in high-level legal decisions. These are the people who see the fraud, the waste, the misconduct up close. And making it so these people are not allowed to blow the whistle, that their retaliation can result in termination and other consequences, that it's, the effects of this are profoundly disturbing and will be profoundly damaging. And it's going to be a lot harder for the people you want to be blowing the whistle to do so. So with me, for me, DOJ without question is where what I'm most worried about.
Well, I want to say Stacey Young at Justice Connection, Mark Zaid at a lot of organizations, and an extraordinary whistleblower attorney, and Allison Gill at the Daily Beans. Thank you so much for joining us. Glenn had to roll on to his next thing, and we would love to have you all back to defiance.org again soon. Appreciate all of your efforts. Thank you. Okay, that's going to take us into the next segment here. Let's bring Xander into the conversation. Xander Schultz is a co-founder at defiance.org. And Xander, let's talk a little bit about the strategy this week of supporting these whistleblower defense organizations. Why did we pick this? You are muted.
There we go. Hey, buddy. Even in normal times, protecting whistleblowers is extremely important. We live in a democracy. A democracy cannot function if people don't know the facts. Institutions are not always forthcoming about the facts. And so whistleblowers have historically always played a really, really important role. But as you know, Miles, we are not in normal times. And we're not in normal times in three big ways. One, the administration's leadership is now filled with loyalists. That's a far cry from when you were running DHS. Now we have folks like Kash Patel running the FBI, Stephen Miller, who I can't stand to look at even now, playing a big part in the administration. So we cannot rely on these individuals to push back internally or let the public know when anti-democratic practices are underway. Two, obviously, we're all familiar with Trump's very aggressive relationship with the media. He does not view them as a fourth institution that he needs to be honest with and as a means of communicating to the public. He views them as competitive activists, and that's only worsened over time. I'm not sure if we have a clip of the walkout from the Pentagons recently, but that was a disturbing moment amongst many, many, many disturbing moments. And then lastly, Congress.
Yeah, let's roll into that for a second, Xander.
In an act of defiance, journalists walked out of the Pentagon for good and by the dozens. Some had covered the U.S. military for decades from inside the building, but said Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth had gone too far by trying to force them to sign on to new restrictions they said violated the freedom of the press. Hegseth maintains the new rules are common sense.
So you can't just roam anywhere you want. It used to be, Mr. President, the press could go anywhere, pretty much anywhere in the Pentagon, the most classified area in the world.
While it is untrue that reporters could roam wherever they wanted in the Pentagon, the new rules further limit the media's access to the building and how they interact with staff, including how reporters solicit information from sources. The rules also restrict what the media can report, including some kinds of unclassified information.
Yeah, I mean, look, before you jump to the third one, Xander, I'll just say, even beyond the retaliation against whistleblowers, the efforts at censorship are extraordinary. I mean, we could do a full 5 hours here and only cover the surface of the efforts to censor news organizations, to deprive the American people of the truth of what's happening.
Correct. And the unfortunate reality of the moment is, even when these truths are unearthed, right now we don't have Congress as a check. Like, this whole emergency could go away if we had Congress as a check. And right now they fear this administration more than they fear their constituents' opinions. So whistleblowers have this massive role in this moment to not only expose what's going on with the administration, but to change, and these groups that we're going to bring on here and talk to change the public sentiment. And so congressional members fear their constituents more than they fear the backlash from the administration. And I want to say, Miles, like, your role in the last administration was so important, your whistleblowing role, partially because it's hard to discredit your voice. You're a lifelong Republican. You were working in the administration. And so in this moment where we live in all these information bubbles, you have access to people that I, as a progressive external activist, do not. And it's harder to dismiss what you're doing as activism or having some sort of agenda against America. And so not only are the messages important, but the messengers that we support are so important in these work.
That's true. And look, I mean, I think the thing that people miss about this is how destructive it can be to people's lives when they go public. If there isn't that support infrastructure in place, and it's not just lawyers, it's the physical security for your family, it's the financial security of even knowing whether you're going to be employable after that. These are the things that people wrestle with. Yeah, they may have seen illegal behavior in the office place, whether that's the Pentagon or the White House or the Department of Justice, but it is not an easy decision for most of these people who blow the whistle to say, well, I'm going to have to come forward, because they know in this moment it is a ticking time bomb inside their life if they go do it. And the organization that we're going to bring in here to talk about next, Xander, before we bring them onto the screen, I want to play just a quick video to orient folks to what this group, Whistleblower Aid, does.
Without Whistleblower Aid, I would not have been able to come forward.
Whistleblower Aid really helped me continue to do what I wanted to do, continue to do the right thing in a manner which kept me safe.
Before Whistleblower Aid, honestly, I felt a little bit like I was way over my head and I didn't have adequate preparation.
One person has the ability to make incredible change through what they're bringing forward. That's why whistleblowers are so essential. Our world right now is pretty much defined by asymmetric power structures.
I mean, whistleblowers bring a sense of balance to our society.
If you don't have people coming forward, that activity continues and begins to spiral out of control.
We know that individuals can't afford to have proper legal counsel.
Whistleblower Aid is a nonprofit organization so that we can give pro bono services to public interest whistleblowers.
Some of the lawyers who helped found the organization were whistleblowers themselves, which gives them a mentality and experience that is incredibly unique.
As a result of our work, laws have changed, industries have been reformed, and the public has risen to hold the powerful accountable.
I want to find out who is the whistleblower.
Extraordinary work. Great to have the CEO of Whistleblower Aid, Libby Liu, on with us, and the Chief Strategy Officer, Naomi Seligman. And we may even pull our friend Mark Zaid back into the conversation here. But Libby and Naomi, welcome. Appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you so much. It's thrilling to be here.
Yes, great to be here.
Tell us
Thanks,
about
Mark.
what you guys are up to at the moment. I mean, obviously, in talking with the panel, it is clear we are in a thing that we say all the time. We're in this unprecedented moment, but this is an unprecedented moment. We have never seen the president of the United States so personally invested in retaliating against people who blow the whistle. But even before that happens, intimidating them so that they do not tell the truth about what is happening inside the federal government. How are you all reacting to this? It must feel like wartime to you.
It is wartime, absolutely. And we're on the front lines. I mean, Miles, you're the best example of this. Just by going after you from the Oval Office and weaponizing the DOJ to find crimes to prosecute you with, the message is loud and clear, right? It's pure intimidation, is pure fear. And, in the agencies, you're having speech policing, loyalty testing. It's nuts. What we're seeing is crazy. And whistleblower.org is drinking from a fire hose.
I mean, I would just add, we're in this moment, and luckily, our organization was made to meet this moment. I feel like we have been ready, we've been prepared, we've been keeping our clients safe for years. Whether it's physical and cybersecurity, we have a holistic approach. And so we were ready for this moment to happen.
Now, Libby and Naomi, I want to ask you a little bit more about the specific ways you are trying to engage these folks who are in government, who are seeing the illegal actions the Trump administration is taking. But before that, you both have experience here. You are both whistleblowers. I mean, as Mark noted in that video, this is not an organization of people who are speculating about what it might take to come forward. You both have done it. I mean, tell us a little bit about what that means interpersonally to make the decision to call out corruption.
I mean, I think that before, when you were talking about how disruptive it is in your life to come forward because you just can't stay silent anymore, we do everything we can to lower the temperature in your life. We know what it's like to take this journey. We know what it's going to be like to be gaslit, for your friends to turn their backs on you, for all of the things that come. And because of that, we do wraparound service. We try to take care of all of your needs. Therapy, you got it, right? Bills, we'll help pay it. We'll put home security on you. We pay for safe houses if your life is threatened. So we will do everything that we can, and we are available 24/7 for you. So we literally have clients pinging us at 2:00 in the morning saying, I'm having a panic attack. What should I do? So, I mean, whistleblower.org is for this moment. And we pride ourselves in being able to protect these people as they come forward, because we have no democracy without them, right? I mean, this is a pure tyranny. So that's what we're all about. Naomi?
I mean, I was a former client at whistleblower.org, which is how I came into the organization. And they wrapped themselves around me so that I could get through a very tough retaliatory environment, which was a rough journey. And so the silver lining from my journey is that I can now support all of these other whistleblowers who are going through what I went through. I can share that experience. I can help them understand what the playbook is. And, because half of our staff has been through it in our board, we come together and we say, oh yeah, we know this move. We've seen this move. And so we can have the preemptive strike, and we can also really protect them in ways that we wouldn't have known unless we had been through it. So that is really what is so special about having gone through the experience and now being able to work with people who are working so hard to hold this administration accountable.
Can I add something that is also unique to our organization? Our focus is impact, right? When you put your life, your family, your career on the line, you are hoping to make a change, to stop something horrible from happening. And we create strategies to achieve your goals. So not only do you tell the truth and make the world aware of it, we're building the strategy so you have that public support, public awareness. We create networks of advocates and coalitions of people to help drive the impact. And that's why we can change laws, we can reform processes, we can hold people accountable so that they can't go on to do horrible things.
Well, Libby, I'm gonna throw the microphone back over to Xander here. But before I do, I just have to say, I mean, I can also attest to this firsthand. Whistleblower Aid was one of the organizations that stepped forward to assist us when we were targeted, including helping to stand up a legal defense fund. And I say to folks frequently, I said to folks as recently as this morning on Defiance Radio, that our decision to fight back against an unconstitutional executive order was not a given. And in fact, our initial inclination was, at the advice of a lot of people in our lives, to lay low, hope it blows over. But we knew that if we did that, this would be easier and easier to do to other people. And it was because of groups like Whistleblower Aid. It was the ability to go raise a legal defense fund that allowed my family to have the confidence to say, no, we're going to fight this. And we can, because we have people behind us. So I laud you all for that work. We know as a family what it means. But Xander, back over to you.
Yeah, Naomi, Libby, I just want to say it's an honor to have you on here on the platform, to be one of the first groups we featured. I don't think there's much work that's more important than what you're all doing right now. I wonder, Libby, you mentioned that you're drinking at the other end of a fire hose. How do you select clients right now? How do you go about which cases kind of, you have limited, go ahead.
We have very limited resources, but I mean, one of the things that is unusual about today is urgency is now a criteria. You know, whereas before it was really focused on social impact. What has the most important public social impact for people here around the world? And now another key criteria is, can we get this whistleblower disclosure out in time to stop something horrible from happening? So it's a really different time frame that we're operating in right now. But, that's why we exist, and we are nimble. So we're rising to the occasion. Naomi?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say what's so interesting is that our criteria itself has never changed, because we are always looking for those that have public interest goals at the top of mind, right? It is not financial incentives. It is really like, how can we make change? So that has stayed the same. But to Libby's point, how do we actually make impact before the public and the administration has just moved on to 70,000 other things, right? Flood the zone is real. And so we are here trying to make sure that that cannot be a successful strategy, that we are holding them to account as it happens. And so we have to be nimble. We work really fast. We get very close to our clients very quickly and make sure that they feel comfortable with our strategy, empower them to do the thing that they want to do.
It seems to me also
go ahead, Xander.
Last question here, Miles. The importance of each victory is not just in that case, but also there's a question about whether we enter a vicious or virtuous cycle of, if future whistleblowers feel empowered and safe to come out and feel like their actions will matter. Did it matter that the last person came out and said something? Did something change? And so it feels like the work you're doing right now and it being supported and you all emerging victorious is not only important for that case, but for creating a muscle in Washington around whistleblowing.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, I will just share Libby's, one of her mottos is courage is contagious, right? And so when we have someone come out and they say, wow, they could do it and they were safe and they had impact, makes them a little less fearful.
And
it's like, I can do it too.
It's so empowering. Instead of being something that depletes a human, it can be an empowering experience. When we had whistleblower come out at the NLRB talking about the DOJ intervention into their secure systems, that person got dozens and dozens and dozens of messages from colleagues that he didn't even know he had, who are like, oh my God, thank you. We're so proud of you. Thank God you could speak up, because I can't. I mean, that says it all.
And that's real. I mean, look, as you both know, You lose a lot of friends when something like this happens, but you
Friends.
gain closer friends. Exactly. Closer friends, supporters, allies that you never knew were there and who really will be with you in the trenches. I want to ask you all a final question here, and then I am again going to throw it back to Xander because he wants to share something with you. Our members want to engage. I mean, on this platform, we got a couple hundred people here, about 1,000 people watching live right now on Substack. This is going out to tens of thousands of our members afterwards, and they have that burning question that led us to launch Defiance.org. What can I do? Tell folks at Defiance.org what they can do to help support whistleblowers. And I hope this also means we can stay in touch so that when you all have key cases, our members can be the grassroots support to stand with them. But tell those members what they can do.
I mean, right now, you were just talking at the top of the show about that important story, the move that the Trump administration is trying to make in order to strip whistleblower protections. So we believe that your listeners and all the people that believe in the work that you're doing and we're doing should get in touch with their members of Congress. I know Xander said he's going to talk about how you can do that. And we've put together some language so that you feel comfortable and you can take that and make it your own. But we think it's really important that they're hearing from you and saying, we will not stand for this. We want you to urge the administration to protect whistleblowers and not strip away their enshrined protections. So we feel really strongly about that. And then, of course, we do want to stay in touch, whistleblower.org. You can sign up. We're doing updates and newsletters, sign up for our social media handles. We want to make sure that you know what's going on before anyone else does, and then what ways you can engage. And we want to help you find your voice and how you can best engage. Because that's, I think, right now, everyone's saying, what can I do? What can I do? And there's a lot that can be done from your home, from your community. And we want to make sure that you can be engaged in the way you want to be.
You can amplify the voices of our clients. And I know it's hard, but stay updated. I know you want to, so many people are having despair. There's no despair. This is the moment to fight. Stay on top of the news. Amplify the courage and good work of these people. I'm sorry, Xander, go ahead.
No, Libby, you're with the right crew for this. All of our members signed up to be part of that Defiance.
We're the resistance, okay?
We're here.
Let's do it.
We're here. So for our members, I'm going to send out directions via email to all the members on exactly how to contact your representatives, your senator, et cetera, what the message to send out. So don't worry, you don't have to jot it down now. We'll follow up with that information. And then, Miles, you did a great job being our Oprah last time. You want to be the Oprah this time?
Well, look, I'll just say this. This won't change your world, but hopefully this is a starting point for the ways that Defiance.org and our members can support you all. So, Mercedes, you want to take us in? We have just a tiny surprise for you today. To whistleblower aid, $20,000 today. We urge our members, if they're motivated and inspired by your mission, the tens of thousands of people who have joined Defiance.org, also to go to whistleblower.org. And if you want to help us match that amount and grow that amount, our members' membership fees contribute to what we do every single week to support orgs. And so it's the little thing we could do this week, especially such an important week in supporting you all.
It's unbelievable. Thank you so much. You're letting us help so many people as they come forward. And I'm moved. I can't. Naomi.
No, I mean, we're really grateful because we know you're in it there with this really generous grant, but you are with us really in a wraparound services. Talk about that. You guys are with us every step of the way, and we're with you every step of the way. And that means that we can all be with our clients every step of the way. So thank you. Thank you for being all in. We're all in with you guys. Thanks for being all in with us. We're really grateful.
We are awed by what you all do. Genuinely, I've seen it firsthand. I can vouch for this extraordinary organization. Urge people to go do that. But like Xander said, members of Defiance.org know tomorrow morning we're going to follow up with you on that action email and the recap. Excited to get people engaged. And we're also excited, Naomi and Libby, to stay in touch with you so that when you have cases of these brave people from DOJ and DOD and even the White House coming forward and saying, I need to expose misconduct, that this community is there to have their backs, to be there to show them that support. So we stand ready. Let us know how we can help.
Awesome. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Miles. We'll be back soon. We have some updates coming up. Take care.
Thank you, friends. Thank you so much for joining us. Libby Liu and Naomi Seligman at Whistleblower Aid. Very grateful for everything you do. Xander, this is my favorite part of the program, is getting to do things like that.
100%.
Our members, I hope they understand how exciting this is, not just for us, but I hope they feel that excitement, because this is it. This is what we're doing. This is what we get to do every week as a club, is go empower these organizations to do actual work. We don't just sit. We don't just navel gaze. We don't just do the news stories about how scary this moment is. We do something about how scary this moment is.
Yeah, shout out to our members. This is their work. We are a medium for that, and we are going to be the best mediums we can be to make sure your money, each penny, each dollar matters and is maximized towards this fight against fascism. So with that said, we have a very different type of whistleblowing effort that we're trying to highlight here today. So we should bring up Simon Isaacs. Do we have Simon Isaacs from Task Force?
Hey. And Simon, I have to say, as we get into this with you, my friend, and we'll give you a proper introduction, I have to give Xander the credit here, because as we were talking about the urgency of supporting whistleblowers, all the threats, all the retaliation from the Trump administration, when Xander and I were talking, he legitimately, I think, thought I was talking about blowing actual whistles. And I was glad he thought that, because once we realized the disconnect, he had a very good idea about what we could also do on this program today. But before we get to that, before we get to the excitement, Simon, tell us what you've been up to, because you've been up to a lot of things. And I know some of them you probably can't talk about, but you have been on the front lines in a way that most people don't get to be on the front lines of pushing back right now.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's a screen share here. I'm going to try my best, and so hopefully this works out.
I don't think there is, Simon. You're going to have to do sort of performance art to show us. You're going to have to do, oh, maybe it does. Yeah.
Bam.
There we go. Never mind. I stand corrected. What do I know about tech?
Every day. Cool, y'all. So hopefully you can see my screen, and I think you can.
Yeah, looks good.
I'm a visual person. That's what I do. I bring to the table creativity, production, and our focus here is to just put out as much stuff into the world as humanly possible all the time. So every week, my team around the country is putting out 5 different new campaigns and programs. It's the stuff that you see a lot. It's the sandwich throwers and the don't obey posters and the projections and the ice stickers and all the Tesla stuff, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's about just being out there, putting out as much stuff on the world, to fly on the internet, to mobilize people, and to take moments that are already happening and take people. We didn't throw the sandwich. What we did is help to make that thing bigger. We weren't the Portland Frog, but we make the thing bigger and we scale it. Today, it's about, we put up these we ain't buying it posters, which I kind of love, the holiday stuff, but it's all about going out there, doing things at scale, putting a bunch out there and utilizing our teams, our street operations, and our creative tactics to help create as an amplification tool to whistleblowers. And so to that end, one of the things that we're really excited about is this next area, which is sort of really focusing on whistleblowers and on ICE at the community level. And so what we found, and we didn't invent this, but it is already working, is that people, and many of you have already seen people taking whistles. They're distributing them in key places. It really started in Chicago, in Los Angeles. We're seeing in North Carolina. We're seeing it in New York. And so the simple action that people are taking is, if you see ICE, you blow 3 whistles. If ICE is detaining somebody, you blow 1 long whistle. This isn't just an activist tactic. It's truly working. And so there's a lot.
And I think we have a clip of that, Simon, on our end that we can put up, is just to give people a sense of what this looks and feels like.
Migration. Watch out.
Literal whistleblowers are taking to the streets in some Chicago neighborhoods. Community leaders are actually urging residents to blow the whistle on ICE. At weekly rallies, thousands of whistles were actually being handed out. residents sounding the alarm when they spot ICE, sometimes stopping arrests in progress.
Awesome stuff.
It's really amazing. And so our job here is to take that and help it scale, help it be known, help it be seen, and help people do more of it. So that's exactly what we're doing. We're giving a little whistle. We are doing free whistles for community groups around the country. Specifically, distribution. And then one of the big things that is really important on all this kind of work is distribution matters. Really making sure that we are adding value, getting it to the right people, right places. What does this look like? This means working and making sure that all of the community groups have whistles. They get cards, they get support. It's to activists, it's community groups, it's to influencers, it's to allies. One of the things I'm really excited about is we are putting in little kiosks in coffee shops around the country. You go get your coffee and you get a free whistle. It's to local community groups, it's to food vendors and all sorts of folks, both on the ally side and on those in terms of communities that are truly being impacted by these raids. So this is what it looks like. Very, very simple. It's the most simple intervention perhaps we've ever done. And a little bit of information. You can all go to icealarm.org, where we've set up a site to be able to sort of learn more about the program and figure out different ways that you can contribute. We do big wild postings and flyering and things, just really making it very simple, making it known by everybody, because one of the core things to know is that while it is happening, and a lot of things, and many of you on the call have already heard about this, we have to realize the sort of algorithmic bubbles that we live in, and a lot of people do not know. And so how do we make sure that we get this to a level of large scale public consciousness?
Yes, that's icealarm.org. And I know, Simon, and as we see on the screen there, you all are targeting this goal of deploying 100,000 whistles around the country. And I want to say one thing, because I have a unique perspective on this. I mean, I used to oversee the agency, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. I'm pro-law enforcement. Most Americans are pro-law enforcement. This isn't about doing anything to harm law enforcement. In fact, what's so great about this is it's a peaceful activation, right? Don't throw things at law enforcement. Don't vandalize their vehicles. That's against the law. But what's important here is you've got ICE going into communities, and we just saw a ProPublica report the other week that hundreds of American citizens have also been unlawfully arrested and detained by this organization. The organization right now is being exploited and corrupted by the Trump administration to do some very dangerous things. And I think what you guys are doing with this is extraordinary, is giving people that very simple first line of defense of a whistle. And that simplicity is the key. Xander?
I love this. Simon, I love you in particular, but I love this campaign broadly. Here's what I really love about it. Miles and I talk a lot about how we need to help America rebuild its collective action muscle, that we're out of practice. We haven't had to be as active in our politics as we need to be in this moment. And stuff like this is almost a gateway drug, if you will, right? This is a small step. It's safe. It's lawful, as you mentioned, Miles, but it gets you in a rhythm of working with your neighbors on behalf of your neighbors in protection of your neighbors. And that's once activated, that muscle can be refined and used in other ways. And I think it's just such a wonderful, wonderful campaign.
Well, and look, I'll add just one last thing on that front, Simon, which is, look, a lot of people watching this broadcast and a lot of our Defiance.org members don't live in communities where they're worried about ICE coming in and detaining people. But a lot of them are. And if you're living in one of these communities right now, including in a place where you've never experienced it, people from Chicago who've never seen agents picking people off the street, it is extraordinarily jarring. It's extraordinarily jarring, including when it's your own neighbors being pulled out of their homes, being ripped out of the windows of their cars, and having their lives upended. So what you are doing is remarkable, and I'm delighted to say we can't accomplish your whole goal, but we do have an announcement of how we can help today. We're gonna get you started on that goal, Simon. We're gonna buy 100,000 whistles. The members of defiance.org are really excited about that. Simon, tell us again where they can go. If people want to go above and beyond the generosity of buying 10,000 whistles, how can they go buy more?
Yeah, I would say there's a couple of things you can do. One, continue to support this effort that you all are doing at Defiance. Two, if this doesn't need to be, this is such a simple intervention. You can do it yourself. You can have it yourself. Is there on the site? We have links to where you can buy buckets of whistles. We have downloads where you can download your own packets. You can distribute them, put them in a Ziploc bag, and go do that thing. I will say, Xander, the only thing I'll disagree with you on is that this isn't a stepping stone. I don't think it's how you meant it. It's not a stepping stone activation, but if you can blow the whistle, because we are seeing them everywhere, and you can help that one person stay with their family, you will have done a lifetime of good. And I think that is one of the, it is really, really amazing what can happen out of this. So do it DIY. If there's community groups, or if you run a community group or a part of a community group, there's a sign up form for you to ask and request whistles, and we're vetting those every single day, and continue to get the word out. So again, I love how you noted the nonviolent component of this. This is a really, really effective action, and a way for people to push back in a way that's tangible, real, simple, and highly effective.
Simon, a lot of us in our college years were buying buckets of beers, and we've grown up to the point where now we want to go buy buckets of whistles to fight back against authoritarianism. So quite a story arc for a lot of people to get to help you all out with this. We are really, really excited, my friend, not just to support you on icealarms.org, but all of the other amazing ideas and activations that you all take on. Xander, anything else to add from your end?
The point that this intervention can you hear me? This intervention in of itself is effective. Simon, I'm happy you made that point. And for our members, we've already contributed 10,000 whistles. We've got Simon and his team 10% of the way to the goal. But we're going to be sharing a link tomorrow that's going to help our members share this out to their friends, their family, and hopefully we can collectively, through our network effect, get you even closer towards that goal. So, we're just honored to be supporting
you can buy Xander's dog, Kobe, to show up and bark for you. And we are going to next week breed 100,000 Kobe's to go bark in neighborhoods where they're needed.
It's phase two. That's phase two, the invasion of the Cavapoos.
Phase two. Simon, seriously, man, you are a patriot. You are a genius. We're so grateful for what you're doing, and happy that Defiance.org members could help support a little bit.
Thanks to you both and to all the community members who are really making this happen.
Cool. Thanks for joining us, my friend. Xander, that's our weekly spotlight for this week. I just have to say from my end, it feels so much more hopeful to get to do things. And you know this because we're friends, but the turning point for us as a family, when we felt terrified about what was going to happen to us, was when we chose Defiance. When we chose Defiance, you shift from this victim mentality of something's happening to me to I can go do something to change the outcome. And people genuinely can.
Yeah, I think in general, we were exhausted from being shocked. We're ready to be empowered to do something about this. And we hope that Defiance is one of many ways in ways in which people feel empowered. I'm just excited to build this out with you, with our members, and we have strength in numbers. And so to all our members, keep helping the community grow. We can increase our check sizes. We can increase the impact of our collective action. And thank you so much for being with us on this journey.
And I'll just note a couple of things coming up is, this first month is a little bit unique because we didn't want to wait a month to organize member meetings, to do things. Like we are doing things now right away. But we have a very important members only meeting on December 3rd that we'll put this and the other upcoming dates in the email. But members are going to get together and we're going to vote on the types of organizations and efforts that we are going to go support next. This is a nonprofit effort. It's not tax deductible because we have created Defiance.org to be able to go support as many organizations as possible without the limitations that the Trump administration is going to try to exploit to stop organizations, but as a nonprofit corporation to go do this good work. And your membership fees go towards funding efforts like we just funded today. So if you're not a member yet at defiance.org, we urge you to go to that link. Go to defiance.org/join the club. Join-the-club. Don't worry, we're going to send that to you in email and we'll put it back there. It's right there on the screen. Urge folks to go there. We're going to do a lot of good. Xander and I have poured a lot of our time and money and effort into building this out, and we're so grateful for those of you who've joined. And remember, we don't want financial limitation to be what keeps people from taking action. You can decide you want your membership fee to be $1 a month. Literally, if you want to have it be $1 a month and that's what you can afford, we get it. There are people who are doing $1,000 a month because they want to every week do extraordinary support to these organizations around the country and anything in between. So that's the mission statement here, is answering the question, what can I do? So look, for defiance.org and our team, and I want to thank our producer, Mercedes, who is extraordinary. She's our head of production. Thank you, Mercedes, for running a fantastic show today. And thank you, everyone, for joining this weekly Spotlight. Defiance.org members, you will hear from us tomorrow morning on the actions you can take to follow through on today's announcements. And get ready, because next week we have another good one in store for you. So thank you for everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for your bravery. Stay brave, stay together. We'll see you.